just done a video on Nuno Betancourt, and at the end of that video I started to just try and explain my love of rock music. You know, that's where I started, and really, in the end, there is nothing like a good rock album for me. You know, those albums I love and I will love forever and ever. Certain prog albums, certain jazz albums, they're fantastic, but I have to be in the right mood, and sometimes I go through periods where I'm not interested, and then I am. If I stick an AC/DC album on or a Led Zeppelin album, every single time I will love it and stick back to the beginning and go again. I really love rock music. So what I've done on this video is, you see this section here of albums, I have just gone and I've pulled out the rock albums, not the prog rock albums, not the proggy fusion albums, not any Frank Zappa albums, just albums that I would say are just out and out rock. So you get an idea of what's in there in just that section. I didn't want to pull them all out because I would have got a lot, but I've got this lot to go through here. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to show you something which is a bit of a mystery, and it might be quite interesting for you. So stick around to the end. So I've just pulled out these out. So where to start? This is actually a weird one for me, right? This here is the only album I own by David Bowie. And it's a fantastic album. And there's other albums by David Bowie that I think are really great. In fact, I think my favourite album by David Bowie, what's his name, is Scary Monsters, which is incredible. This is an incredible album as well, and features David Bowie on vocals, keyboards, guitar, saxophone and koto. He really was something else, that bloke. A serious musician, a serious singer and a serious songwriter, one of the greats. Carlos Alomar on rhythm guitar, Dennis Davis on percussion, drums, right? Now, Dennis Davis actually was the drummer with Roy Ayers, and I saw him live with Roy Ayers, and he was pretty incredible. He was doing some incredible things, and at one point he started drumming and he started rapping. It was quite phenomenal. I think he died a few years back. George Murray on electric bass, don't know who the hell that is. Brian Eno on synthesizers, keyboards and guitar treatments, and of course on lead guitar, Robert Fripp. This is a fantastic album. I often question myself, why haven't I got loads of David Bowie albums, especially this last album that was done with a jazz group. And so many people, and they've been arguing with me about the lack of a cutting edge in jazz, have mentioned that Bowie album. I'm sure that is the case. But yes, David Bowie, really strange artist for me. I don't know why I've never warmed to him. I think that's the only way I could describe it. Here's a band that is far more influential than everybody makes out. They've sort of been forgotten. And it's Faith No More, and this is the album that he's got from out of nowhere, an epic. This is a fantastic album. Faith No More were around way before Nirvana. They were around way before Fishbone. They were around way before anybody. About 1984-85, this band was almost like exploring a new type of punk rock, a new type of punk rock that opened its arms to normal rock a lot more, but also avant-garde music and prog and fusion, a really interesting mixture. And I think that their influence on what happened later on in the late 80s and early 90s, that whole grunge, funk metal, progressive metal, all that explosion, they were really, really important. Mike Patton is one of the greatest singers in rock. The stuff he did with Mr. Bungle is that doorway from rock to the avant-garde, and this is a fantastic album as well, really great album, right? I ain't going to say much about this one, maybe the greatest rock album ever made. There it is, here's my vinyl copy. I've done old videos on this. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm not allowed to say what it is. If you don't know what it is, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Right, there it is. This here is literally 10 miles up the road from me. This whole thing here is literally 10 miles up the road from me. And here, this sort of Tolkien-esque artwork, of course, Lord of the Rings, right, the Shire, was originally based on Worcestershire, which is where I am right now. It's strange, isn't it? That industrial landscape and that Tolkien-esque fantasy Middle-earth that has influenced all of rock music. I'm sat right in it right now. Right in it. Another band. That's my favourite Black Sabbath album. Incredible. Look at that inside. I ain't going to say anything about these albums. They're off their heads on this album. They really didn't know what the hell they were doing. There's even a track called Snowblind on there, which is a sort of description of their coke-addled place they found themselves when they're making this album. But it's incredible, and it contains my favourite Black Sabbath tune, Supernaut, which is just mind-blowing. One of the heaviest riffs ever committed. It's one of the heaviest tracks, and it's got that wonderful thing in the middle that Black Sabbath do that just makes them so wonderful. Is in the middle of that track there's a calypso. You know, Tony, what are we going to do in the middle of Supernaut? Well, it's like the heaviest thing in the world, isn't it? It's like so heavy, it's like dark, it's like the devil. What do you suggest, geezer? I don't know, what about you, Bill? What do you think? Well, I was thinking of putting the calypso in there. Right. That, if you don't know, I'm sure some of you go, what was that accent? What was it? Anybody from the UK, can you explain in the comments what that accent was and why I'm so good at doing it? Right. One of the greatest rock albums ever made. Love it. I usually hate albums with the bands on the front, but I just love that cover with Angus with his devil horns and his little tail he's holding on to. And who's this fellow? That's a Cliff Williams in the background. Look, it's like this is one of the biggest selling albums of High Street. Look, he's in the background. I'm not on. He's trying to get on there, you know. Bon Scott's in the corner having a laugh. You got this sneer of rock here. Malcolm Young's sullen look, you know. He doesn't even seem to know where he is, and they won't even let him in. It's like all human nature of rock is on that album cover. Right? Incredible. There's not a bad track on here. This is one of the greatest albums ever made. This is the album, this is why I'm here. This is the album, this is the band that made me go from liking music to loving music and becoming obsessed by it. Of course, Ace of Spades. Look at that. Look at him on the front. Okay, this has obviously been shot on some beach or sand dunes somewhere in the UK. You know, if you just walk over there, you would see some donkeys and little kids out eating ice creams and blokes with, you know, handkerchiefs tied around the top of their heads. But we don't care. There they are, decked out like some banditos. It's incredible. And this is another album. There's not a bad track on here. This is one of the greatest albums ever made. You see, I have just randomly pulled albums out, and on the whole, all of these are some of the greatest albums ever made. This is one of the greatest albums ever made, isn't it? Look at that. This is what I've been chatting about on that video about Nuno Betancourt. Look at them. Look at them on the front. Is that not exciting? Look at that. Look at Dave Lee Roth there. That's what's called a rock star. See that there? That is a rock star. Right, rock stars do stuff like that. All right, they do stuff like that. I can't do that. I'll do myself a mischief because I'm not a rock star. I don't think Dave Lee Roth can do it anymore. Here's another one. One of the greatest albums ever made. I didn't mean to do this. Deep Purple in rock. This is there with the 3 albums that invented heavy metal. Maybe the 4 albums. I've just changed my point of view. So those albums would be Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, the debut album, Uriah Heep, Very Heavy, Very Humble, which is an album I don't know that well, but I think, you know, when I have listened to it, I think, oh, this is 1970, this is a heavy album. And this one, and what we get here is the acceleration. This is where the speed comes from. You know, when you think of all those, like, you know, blast beat bands, that's what we heard here. You know, on tracks like Speed King and Flight of the Rat, that sort of that's what we get on here. Ian Pace's incredible drumming. I'm not so keen on Deep Purple studio albums. They're always a little bit flawed for me. I do really like Come Taste the Band, but that's almost like a different band. It's just very funky. The other albums, even albums like Machine Head, it's brilliant, but I want to check out the versions on Made in Japan. You know, I want to hear the live versions. Not so with this album. This is incredible, and it contains my favourite Deep Purple track, which is Bloodsucker, which nobody ever goes on about. Bloodsucker's just incredible. Right, I'm going to do a video on this band at some point because I really love them and I haven't talked about them that much, and it is Whitesnake. This is a guilty pleasure. I just really love Whitesnake. I love David Coverdale's voice. I love that sort of... R&B, bluesy, rock sound. I love all the musicians in it. I think Mickey Moody and Bernie Marsden, that's this band here. Those two guitarists are just so great. Mickey Moody's incredible slide guitar, and Bernie Marsden's sort of virtuoso blues guitar playing. And then we have that killer rhythm section, don't we? Which is like Neil Murray, one of the greatest rock bass players that had played before in, like, you know, fusion bands like Colosseum. Ian Pace on drums. What can I say about him? And John Lord on keyboards. This is just one of the greatest rock lineups of all time, isn't it? Great album, great production. This came out, I think, at the end of 1980s. This is one of the first albums I ever bought. You can see the spine. This has really gone through a. Oh, as soon as I open this and I see that inner sleeve there, it just takes me back, because this is what I poured over. I looked at everybody here, and I used to look at David Coverdale hair. There, I said hair. Did you notice that Freudian slip? I used to look at David Coverdale there, and I wanted to look like that. I really did. I wanted my hair like that. And I ended up at one point with my hair like that. I think if you go back to my early YouTube videos, it's still there. The trouble is, I went very grey, and I remember looking in the mirror one day and thought, oh my God, I don't look like David Coverdale anymore. I look like Gandalf. I've turned into Gandalf. Right. The last one on the list, and then I'll show you that little surprise. This is another band that I absolutely love, and this is the only... Now, I've got to have some more albums by this. I think I had Quadrophenia, the double disc, and I think I sold it at some point. I used to have a best of that's collected the 60s stuff together. Any other albums? I love The Who. I love the early stuff more than the later stuff. That's really weird for me, because when they get all Tommy-fied and they get more proggy, I don't like them as much. For me, they're at their peak when they're doing things like I Can See for Miles, Pictures of Lily. Just go through the tracks, honey, I'll tell you. My generation, that's rock. That's the beginning of rock music. That's the beginning of bass playing. Anyway, anyhow, anywhere. You know, that's just pre-rock. That's like where rock came from. The Kids Are All Right. That's rock. Substitute, strange songwriting. They get some really strange ideas in this band, and nothing more than I'm a Boy, right? An ode to transgenderism, or the enforced transgenderism. Of course, nothing like that happens nowadays, does it? Happy Jack, Pictures of Lily. Pictures of Lily is an ode to self-love. I Can See for Miles, incredible, like a sublime tune. Who Are You? That's a later one, isn't it? When they've gone rubbish. Won't Get Fooled Again. Good. I've got that album. I've got what's it? Who's Next? Is that what it's called? The one where they're doing the wee up of the big concrete obelisk. That one. Who's Next? It's got Baba O'Reilly. That's a good album. Magic Bus I absolutely love. I can't explain. One of my favourite Who tunes. It's just so catchy. You know, this is where bands like Blur came out of. It's just so catchy and pre-rock and roll. You know, and The Who are pre-rock and roll and then become rock. Sorry, not pre-rock and roll. Pre-rock to rock, like the Kinks. Pinball Whistle's great. I'm Free. Came out in '69. When I first became aware of music in 1975, and I was 7 years old. I can remember putting the TV on, and the new Tommy film came out, and there was this video of Roger Daltrey running endlessly through fields singing I'm Free. And it was just that, you know, when you're a little kid, I was one of those hyperactive kids. You know, we went on holiday, my parents would drive me on holiday. They'd have to open the door, you know, find a field, and I would run around the field to get rid of my energy. And what I sang when I ran around that field was I'm Free. I didn't know it was by the band The Who. I just liked that idea of just being able to get your energy out. I wish I was like that now. You know, that was back when I had lead in my pencil. I'm missing all the lead now. I'm trying to look for the lead. Right, so those are the albums that exist there, some rock albums. I'm talking about rock. Now I'm going to pull out something here. Right, don't worry. I'm going to pull out something here that is a mystery to me. This is a drum head. And if I zoom right in, I'll put something white behind it so you can see. Right, have I got anything white? If there's anything, this pillar will do. Right, so if I'm going to just put this behind, and I'm going to just put that right to the camera. Right, that is a Ludwig drumhead heavy. Right, you can see the logo's pretty old. Okay, so as I've explained on this channel, I was involved in the preparation of one of John Bonham's drum kits that was then sold to a guy that he's one of the owners of Microsoft, some multi-billionaire type of guy, and he now owns John Bonham's drum kit. And I was involved in the preparation of that. And when I'd finished, there was bits and bobs left over. And I could have said to Robert, can I just keep these bits and bobs? There was a few bits of extra hardware. And this was the hardware that was off Bonham's kit. And I didn't. I just said, I bagged it up. But I'm sure he would have given it me. But it's not really thinking straight. There was some drum heads with that kit as well. And so I thought, well, they're quite useful. If I was always, drum heads are expensive. So I grabbed a couple of drum heads. Robert, can I have them? Yeah, of course, you take those. And I took this. And when I was going through them the other day, I pulled them all out. And I pulled this one out. Now, this here is a pretty old Ludwig Weathermaster, right? Heavy. Off Bonham's kit. Right? Is this one of Bonham's drum heads? And did John Bonham hit this? Or is some clever clogs going to go, no, because actually that badge there was from 1974. Which, if it is the case, this would have to be pre-69. If this drumhead is pre-1969, now I don't think it is because it's plastic for a start. There's a certain point where drumheads weren't this type, so I don't know. This drumhead has definitely been on Bonham's kit, without a doubt. Like that is without. I took it off the kit. This is a drumhead that sat on Bonham's kit, so it's got some value at least, hasn't it? But was it played by the legend? And if so, we should treasure this, shouldn't we? I just wanted to show you. Okay, anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye, patrons. Bye bye.